1979. God, what a year. The world felt electric, didn't it? Arena rock wasn't just music back then, it was salvation. Those massive stadiums became temples where strangers became family, where every voice mattered, where you could scream your heart out and feel truly alive. But time has a cruel way of burying magic, and some of the most powerful anthems that once moved mountains have been lost to the ages. Today on WoodsRock, we're resurrecting 10 forgotten arena rock anthems from 1979. The songs that still give us chills, that still make us remember what it felt like to be invincible. Styx, Renegade. This wasn't just a song, it was a lifeline for the lost souls. It's the closing track on Styx's platinum album, Pieces of Eight. And in 1979, it climbed to number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Oh, mama, I can hear you crying, you're so scared.
But even at its peak, Renegade was quickly overshadowed by the band's #1 ballad, Babe. Written late one night by Tommy Shaw after reading a story about a fugitive on the run, it wasn't meant to be polished pop. It was a raw nerve, desperate and defiant. That haunting a cappella intro was like a confession whispered in the dark, before the guitars exploded in fury. Mama, I'm coming home. How many of us felt like that renegade, running from something we couldn't even name? In those arenas, surrounded by thousands of voices singing along, you weren't alone anymore. You were part of something bigger, something that understood your pain. But its path to iconic status was anything but guaranteed. The record label hated it. Too dark, too weird, that a cappella intro commercial suicide. On the charts, it looked like a near miss. But live, it transformed. That, "Oh mama, I'm in fear for my life," wasn't just a lyric. It was a collective confession from 20,000 people. Crowds screamed, "Hangman is coming!" like a battle cry, turning every show into catharsis. The record company saw a failed single. The fans saw a mirror. And that connection is what saved Renegade from being forgotten forever, making it the true rock heart of Styx, an anthem of rebellion that still rattles arenas decades later. Journey, lovin', touchin', squeezin'. Steve Perry's voice. God, that voice could heal broken hearts and shatter them in the same breath. Before Journey became 80s titans, they were scrappy dreamers on their 5th album, Evolution. And this track proved they could be a hard rock force as much as a progressive one. Perry wrote this blues-soaked gut punch after a brutal breakup, and you can hear him bleeding through every note. Released in 1979, it climbed to number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100, Journey's first ever top 20 hit. But its real magic wasn't in chart numbers. That famous "na na na" outro, it was pure accident. Perry just vamping in the studio, spilling pain and nonsense syllables. The band kept it on a whim, never guessing it would become one of the most powerful communal experiences in rock. In arenas, it transformed. 50,000 people crying out together, all our heartbreaks merging into one beautiful wound. No words, just raw emotion, echoing back and forth like a shared therapy session. Lovin', touchin', squeezin' wasn't just a song. It was the root of the Journey power ballad. Proof that sometimes pain accidentally becomes perfection. Cheap Trick, Dream Police. Behind the humor was something darker, something real. We all had our dream police, didn't we? Those voices in our heads telling us we weren't good enough. Cheap Trick actually recorded the title track for Dream Police back in 1977, but But they sat on it for 2 years, terrified it was too weird, too dark for the fun power pop image they had built. Rick Nielsen's insomnia-driven riffs gave the song its jagged paranoia, while Robin Zander's desperate vocals turned surveillance into a scream from the soul. When it finally dropped in 1979, it climbed to number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100, instantly becoming a fan favorite. And yet, like so many gems, it was forever trapped in the shadow of Live at Budokan, the phenomenon that made them arena superstars that same year. History branded them the live album gods, but Dream Police told a deeper story, that behind the cartoon image, Cheap Trick had shadows, fears, and depth most bands wouldn't dare to show. And that's why it worked. When Nielsen's guitar kicked in, when those harmonies soared over the paranoia, you could fight back. Dream Police turned anxiety into armor, paranoia into power. In the hands of America's wonderfully weird uncles of rock, fear itself became something you could sing your lungs out to, with 20,000 voices drowning out the doubts in your head. Jefferson Starship, Jane. 1979 was a do-or-die year for Jefferson Starship. Their frontman Marty Balin had just quit. The critics were circling, and the band's future felt uncertain. But out of that lineup shakeup, they rose like phoenixes with freedom at point zero. And Jane became their triumphant return to hard rock glory. Climbing to number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, it wasn't just a hit, it was a statement of survival. Written with new guitarist Craig Chakiko at the helm, the song was inspired by a fictional muse. Jane symbolized renewal, second chances, the thrill of becoming who you were meant to be. That driving riff, the soaring chorus, and even the organ part, added last minute in the studio, gave it extra arena punch. And yet, history wasn't kind. The raw, hungry Jane was soon buried under the band's own even bigger, schmaltzier pop successes in the 80s. It became the forgotten bridge, the last gasp of their rock credibility before the shift to glossy radio ballads. But in those massive arenas of 1979, Jane pulsed with possibility. It wasn't just a single, it was a declaration of rebirth. For fans, it felt like tomorrow could be anything. For the band, it proved reinvention wasn't just possible, it was destiny. Kansas, People of the South Wind. From the album Monolith, this was Kansas at their most mystical, blending hard rock muscle with progressive and symphonic grandeur. Written by Kerry Livgren after studying the history of the Kansa tribe, the very people from whom the band took their name. This song was prog rock as American history, an ode to Native American spirit. That violin cutting through the guitar storm like lightning, Steve Walsh's celestial vocals soaring above it all. This wasn't just a rock song, it was transcendence. In the arenas, it felt like you weren't just listening, you were ascending, becoming part of something ancient and eternal. And yet, Monolith was considered a commercial disappointment, and the track had no chance of competing with the eternal simplicity of Dust in the Wind. Despite its ambition, it was buried. Fun fact, Kansas once performed it live with a Native American dancer, adding a visual mysticism that turns stadiums into sacred ground. People of the South Wind remains their forgotten epic, a reminder that Kansas weren't just hit makers, they were storytellers, turning history into ritual. And for a moment in 1979, rock felt eternal. REO Speedwagon. Only the strong survive. Raw, hungry, desperate. This was REO on the edge of superstardom. 9 Lives was a make-or-break album after years of struggle, and Only the Strong Survive became their mantra. Written by guitarist Gary Richrath during a time of crisis, it wasn't just another rock track. It was the band's refusal to fade away, set to music. Kevin Cronin's vocals carried the weight of every small-town dreamer staring at the stars, daring to believe. On AOR radio, it became a staple, resonating in the heartland with fans who lived by the same creed. In the arenas of 1979, this track wasn't just played, it was lived. Crowds screamed the title like a battle cry, a promise whispered in the dark. Only the strong survive. And yet, within a year, High Infidelity would catapult REO into the stratosphere with glossy ballads that turned them into MTV kings. This song, raw and defiant, was left behind. But Only the Strong Survive remains the forgotten heartbeat of a band still clawing its way to glory. The sound of the fight before the victory. April Wine, I Like to Rock. From their album, Harder, Faster. I Like to Rock was April Wine at their rawest. No frills, no metaphors, just unapologetic, riff-driven joy. In an era when prog was getting more complex and punk was snarling at the gates, this song was a brilliantly simple thesis statement. We like to rock, and that's enough. It dominated Canadian charts and carved out a place on AOR radio, even if it never fully broke through in the US, overshadowed by bigger acts. But for those who knew, it became a cult classic, the ultimate anthem of purity. Its dual guitar attack and shout-along chorus turned arenas into powder kegs, where thousands of fans celebrated the most essential truth of rock and roll. And that cheeky outro, where they wove in riffs from Day Tripper and Satisfaction, that wasn't just clever, it was a declaration of lineage. April Wine were planting their flag in the same soil as the Beatles and the Stones. In 1979, I Like to Rock wasn't just a song, it was a mission statement, a reminder of why we fell in love with rock in the first place.
I like to rock! I like to rock!
Robert Palmer, Bad Case of Loving You, Doctor, Doctor. Before the slick suits and stylized MTV videos of the 80s, Robert Palmer was a force of nature, a soulful renegade with something to prove.
I've got to find my baby, yeah.
On his 1979 album Secrets, he unleashed Bad Case of Loving You, Doctor, Doctor, a cover of Moon Martin's tune that Palmer transformed into a global hit. The entire recording was done in a single, blistering take, and you can hear it. That live wire energy, that dangerous, barely controlled chaos. The stomping riff throbbed like a heartbeat amplified, and Palmer's gritty, feverish vocals turned a love song into pure obsession. In the arenas, when fans screamed, "Doctor, Doctor!" back at him, it wasn't just a hook, it was a pulse-pounding ritual, a surrender to the madness of being alive. As the 80s rolled in, hits like Addicted to Love and Simply Irresistible would polish Palmer into a style icon. But this track is the forgotten proof of who he really was first. A rocker, raw and untamed, chasing danger one take at a time. Boston, Feelin' Satisfied. Tom Scholz was a perfectionist genius, a hermit alchemist, building songs in his basement studio like cathedrals of sound. Feelin' Satisfied, the third track on Don't Look Back, was his love letter to rock's redemptive power. Those layered guitars weren't just riffs. They were hope stacked on hope, dream upon dream, a prayer to the rock gods wrapped in shimmering harmonies. Released in 1978 and carried into 1979 arenas, it stood as a certified anthem. In stadiums, when thousands sang that euphoric chorus, it was pure sunlight after a storm. The music wrapping around you like a warm embrace, promising everything would be okay. And yet, there's a cruel twist. Scholes himself considered Don't Look Back unfinished, rushed by the record label before he felt it was ready. So while fans heard triumph, he heard compromise. That contradiction baked its way into the song's legacy, an anthem that felt like victory to the world, but to its creator, always a reminder of what might have been. Pat Travers Band. Boom boom, out go the lights.
No kidding, I'm ready to fight. I've been looking.
This is it. This is why live music matters. On Live, Go For What You Know, Pat Travers turned Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights into a raw, crowd-slaying anthem.
I'm ready to go. If I find a boy, don't you know?
Recorded at a raucous Chicago show, it captured the band at their absolute peak. Travers' solos exploding like lightning, Mars Cowling's bass shaking the floor, the energy boiling over. For most bands, a live album is a stopgap. For Travers, it was the masterpiece. AOR Radio didn't care about the studio version. They played this live cut, because this was the song. The call and response turned every arena into a battleground of joy, thousands of fans screaming boom boom back into the dark. Travers would never be a household name, but for a moment in 1979, he mainlined the unfiltered electricity of a live show straight into rock's bloodstream. It's the ultimate forgotten anthem, because its magic could never be trapped in a studio. It only ever existed in that sacred space between the stage and the crowd. These 10 songs weren't just tracks, they were lifelines, stitching together a generation on the edge of a new decade. In 1979, arena rock was more than music. It was a rebellion against time, against doubt, against the ordinary. These forgotten anthems held us, shook us, and made us believe we could conquer anything. They're still out there, waiting in the shadows, ready to reignite that spark. Which one hits you hardest? Which one takes you back to that moment when the world felt infinite? Share it below. Subscribe to keep the fire burning, and let's bring these songs back to life.